You have entered the realm of dead air. For the next 2 hours, you will be transported into the world of the strange and the supernatural. You might not feel the need to cleanse your laptops or mobile devices afterwards. But it might not be a bad idea.
I have a problem.
Please.
Let's, all of the cell phones out there. I mean, people are filming all sorts of anomalies that are going on out there. Good evening, by the way, everybody. Welcome to Dead Air Live and the Dead Air Full Spectrum channel. It's our Sunday night show, 8 p.m. Mr. Ken DaCosta and Miss Erin Bush joining me this evening, and a very special guest joining us in a few minutes here, Michelle Belanger. I'm so looking forward to having a conversation with this incredible individual, and it's a return appearance, which we always love. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, the thumbs up for our content, and hit that reminder bell. We are simulcast with KGRADB.com, KGRA on Facebook. And don't forget also, check on Facebook, the Dead Air Full Spectrum page, Ken DaCosta's personal page, my personal page, Rise Up Paranormal, aaronbush.gov, whatever yours, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff out there, you guys. Link up. So anyway, yeah, all these people out there with their, phones on their cameras, and they're catching all these, whether it be ghosts, whatever, but the alien part. Why to this day has there not been one post from an alien yet? Whether it's an aerial shot or, a battleship out in those UFOs in the ocean, even an anal probe to show that, our equipment's sterile, something. Why haven't we gotten anything from that side, Ken? Or Aaron?
I would hate to, just be in a room with you when you're just bouncing these ideas off everything. It's kind of like Bigfoot, okay? I have a theory that Bigfoot is actually a blurry creature. It's not the photos. He's just blurry.
He's moving fast in one spot.
Not easy.
Something to think about for sure. But thank you guys again for joining us tonight. We are looking forward to this conversation. And I know you're all asking at home, why is Erin Bush joining us tonight? Here's an individual who has talents and skills in the realm of sensitivity, the things that she experiences. So she's going to have an opportunity to pick Michelle's brain. And then Ken and I have the opportunity to hurt Michelle's brain tonight with some of the things we want to bring up. But Ken, if you'd like to do the introductions for us, sir.
I do. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest from shows like Paranormal State and Portals to Hell, but she's also the author of over 30 books on paranormal and occult topics, both fiction and nonfiction, and has been consulted for a great many documentaries as well as texts on the subjects. Her new YouTube series is called New Blood, and we're excited to have her on tonight to talk about this new amazing project. So without further ado, let's welcome back Michelle Belanger.
Yay! Wait, can we please, when it's somebody like Michelle, can we please cue in the applause? That's what Thank you. I'll be here all week. Try the veal, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
What's your secret? You look fantastic.
Vampire?
Have you been smoking? Oh, I'm sorry. Canada's been smoking.
Outside has been smoking. I'm in the path of the wildfire smoke from Canada. But aside from that, just living my best life.
Fantastic. And Elysia. Is that how we pronounce it?
Oh, Illyria.
Illyria.
Illyria Oh no, it's okay. Illyria is doing good. Actually, she is off meeting. She does a lot of trail work, and like helps build stuff with parks out here. So she's currently meeting up with someone for, blazing some sort of signage for the Buckeye Trail. I don't know. She takes care of a part of the Buckeye Trail. Makes her happy.
Wow.
I'm kind of like, cool trails. I write. I don't go outside.
Anyone out there in chat, if you know what a Buckeye is, post it up in chat, and we'll try to get you a T-shirt or something.
Mm.
So we've been busy on the show. A lot of great guests, a lot of great topics, and again, 4th of July, we can't have any better fireworks than Michelle Belanger. And again, there's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of directions that we want to go, and you know, people have gotten used to the fact that when we do the show, I'll pop off or Ken will pop off, and just so that we just don't start overlapping each other. Because there's a lot to get to. So I'll be the first volunteer to step back and just keep an eye on the chat. And I'll leave you two, Ken and Erin, and I'll come back in just a little bit.
Okay.
And if you get any pictures of alien anal probes, you know what? Don't let us know.
I'll post it. If it's up, I'll post it.
Make sure it's got like a spoiler tag that seems like it might be not work safe.
A little heads up ahead of time.
Yeah,
I guess,
right.
You know.
You're going to need a creative hashtag for that too, I think.
Right?
I'll get on it right away. See you guys in a little bit.
I'm frightened. Hey, before we get into this, because I want you to spill the tea on this project that you got, Michelle. But first, as they do in the high-priced fancy shows, we have a video clip.
Oh, yeah.
Prepare you.
Greetings, fellow seekers. I'm Michelle Belanger. Maybe you've seen me on Paranormal State, Portals to Hell, Conjuring Kesha, a whole bunch of other shows. I am a psychic medium on television, but what you might not know is I am a psychic vampire. In fact, I wrote the book on it. I am a founding member of the modern vampire community, and I'm here to take you on quite a ride. Get into the core of yourself. Expand your awareness.
We decided when we created this team that we didn't want to be banishers. We don't want to banish entities. We don't want to send them to the light. Our job is to go in and make contact with them the best we can and learn everything we can about them.
Is there anything non-human on this land? Yes.
There's been a being hovering over you, like right in front of Aubrey this whole time.
With one hand on the planchette.
It might be a good night to see if you can't see lights in the sky.
New blood. So Michelle, we want the tea. Like the genesis, the origins of this project, who's involved, because this thing looks, as we like to say in New England, piss up.
It's wicked cool. So, a little over a year ago, Fenelonkush reached out and was like, hey, I've got some questions. I read one of your books and like, I've got questions about like things that are going on for me and experiences that I'm having. And like, your book tells me that you're the person who has answers for this. Also, I'm a documentarian and would I be able to film it? And I've had lots of people pitch like, let's do a show and let's do this thing. And usually it's the same old of shouting at ghosts in dark places. And if anybody's seen my work, I'm here for it to a point, but there's so much more than just your average everyday grandma's haunting the house. Some of the stuff that Fen wanted to talk about is about my personal practice, which usually gets kept off of all of the paranormal shows for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is it's complicated. Like it takes more explaining than ghosts do. So I met with Fen and I was like, you know what? Actually, yeah, I like your style. So we just decided that what we would do is we would converge on my haunted property in Oberlin, Inspiration House, because it also afforded the crew someplace to stay, and just sort of see what happened. Like just document it as we went. And it turned into these two shows. One of which is a more traditional, like go to haunted locations in this case, they were places that were tied to various people involved in the in-person thing, this sort of initiatory experiences. We're like exploring our own awakening, our own abilities, what those mean. And there would be like these sort of like pings, this interconnected stuff of like some activity would happen at Inspiration House, but an echo of that activity would seem to spark something at like a farm that Stephanie Bingham was tied to. And we were like, okay, so all of this is weirdly connected. And so it's us telling that story. One of those stories is a little more episodic. So it's, a bunch of people at a location trying to figure out what's there, with opening themselves to the possibility that it's never as simple as ghosts, that there's a lot more things out there than just spirits of the dead, that lights in the woods could be UFOs, fairies, or who knows what. And also just really digging into that process of exploration. And that's what caught my attention with this, is it wasn't only about, let's go see if the place is haunted. Because to me, the most compelling story is the journey the people are on as they're investigating. Because doing this work changes you. It changes the way you look at the world. It changes how you experience the world. You learn aspects of yourself. And so the other one, New Blood, is that journey of, what does this mean for me? Like, who am I? And that's each person asking that question. So for myself, sharing a lot of my own journey for the past 3 decades or more. And Fen, who's fairly new to certain aspects of it, we do some wild stuff. I got to do my first SU session. I'd never actually done one. But I also do with Lonnie Scott of The Troth, I do a live past life regression. If folks have paid attention, reincarnation plays a significant role in my personal beliefs and my personal practice. But again, it's a deep rabbit hole, so it doesn't usually come up on a ghost show. And that is probably the most raw, vulnerable 40 minutes of filming. It might have been more than 40 minutes, but it was a lot. Like, it was a lot.
In narrowing that focus down, though, you're still able to, as you said, dabble into the different parameters of the paranormal, the occult, and speak to people who these things might touch in different ways.
Well, it's less than dabbling. It's realizing that it's all connected. That once you start asking the question of what's out there, the answer you get is, oh, it's so much more than ghosts. And it's not that simple. Like any conclusion you draw, like, is it spirits in the woods? It's not that simple. Like what you think, the easy answers that are just kind of like prepackaged for us. And we don't have a lot of shows that come at things from multiple different faith and practices. So a lot of the folks involved, we've got witches, we've got pagans of various stripes, magical and occult practitioners, folks who practice a type of vampirism, which is a whole thing, but also is adjacent to the modern witchcraft and magical communities, energy work. And everybody's bringing their particular flavor of woo to the table and their particular way of looking at things, which means that we don't have any one box to put any experience in. So what you get is the conversation of, what does this actually mean? Well, I think it's this, and I think it's this. And no one's saying like, well, because we're looking at ghosts, we couldn't possibly find UFOs. Because we're looking at ghosts, we couldn't possibly consider cryptids. The main concept is, it's all of a piece. And even more than that, we ourselves are a part of the paranormal. We are active participants in this phenomena. We're often not only observing, but participating, and in many cases even causing some of the phenomena. So we dig into like, what does that really mean? And then what's real if the human mind can create a spirit?
Are there people that you're working with that run the gamut, from those that are into technology, as well as the spiritual, as well as the metaphysical? So everybody, I would imagine, this is what you're referring to, they bring that background to the table.
Yeah, we've got folks who are a little more tech-based. We've got folks who are a little more organic, folks with backgrounds in psychology, comparative religion, and folklore and mythology. Usually there's sort of a convergence of interests from person to person. Fen is coming with the background as someone who, was working in Hollywood, so, understands how film works and what can happen to make things not look like basically how things can be faked. So then has an eye for when something is this shouldn't exist. So clearly, for us to have caught this is something unique. We've got Aubrey, who is also really, really well put together with the technological aspect and has a deep spiritual tie to natural places. Everybody can speak to things from very different ways. Steph Bingham, who's got a sort of a hybrid background, history and mythology, like an academic background, but also more traditional ghost hunting as well under her belt.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what's also unique about this show is that it's a clear representation of the queer community as well, and they display their interests, their acumen, and their approach to paranormal investigation, which is in essence isn't very dissimilar to anyone else's. Huge shock, I know.
Yeah.
It gives us an opportunity to see these people, to meet these people, to listen to these people, and how they go about their own business and their own interpersonal relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a queer cast and crew that wasn't by intention. It was just we were the folks who found one another, and also we were folks who frequently were either sidelined or turned down because of our identities. And paranormal television. Okay, not to put too fine a point on it, but in the month of June, Netflix, Warner Brothers, Disney, and I forget which other one, all sidelined their diversity inclusivity people. Those people either resigned or were fired. So we're moving into a time period where it's a lot of white guys. And while that's not by itself bad, because everybody's got a story to tell, when that means that other people can't get through the door just because, we don't think that's going to appeal to our audience. Our audience really just wants men in tight black t-shirts shouting at ghosts. It means that we have to make it ourselves. The Supreme Court as much as told us that we don't serve your kind here. So we have to do it ourselves.
Oh, we're gonna go there in a little bit.
Yeah, no, we have to do it ourselves. We don't have an option. I'm old enough to remember just trying to do a tarot deck back in the 90s or early 2000s. They would not we had to have a whisper network of the one printer in the US who would even touch a tarot deck because they were so sure, everybody was sure the tarot deck was going to haunt the frickin' printing press. It was all satanic, panic.
Satanic panic.
Yeah, so I'm having bad flashbacks to that, and we have stories to tell, and we want to be able to tell them ourselves. We want to be able to be who we are on camera without pretension or apology. Like I said, you haven't heard much of my story with my personal practice or personal beliefs because it doesn't fit neatly in any of the shows I've worked on. It's a little too much, or it doesn't fit the narrative or whatever. And that means we got to make our own narrative.
I know Erin has some questions, so I'll, kind of end with this a little bit. You've been on the other side of this, obviously. And the thing that we hear the most as soon as we announce that you're going to be joining us, I miss Michelle, I miss Michelle, I miss Michelle. So you have a following of people who see your positivity and your honesty and everything about your personality that just interests people so much. But being on the other side of this, there's got to be a certain freedom to be able to control your message, show what you want to show, say what you want to say. And I guess that's the beauty of streaming and not having to answer to networks and demographics or any of those things that can be kind of cumbersome sometimes.
So, I definitely have a fan base, and for a couple of decades now. It's like, why don't you have your own show? Why don't you have your own show? And I'll kind of pass it off because it's an awkward thing to say of like, it's not like we haven't pitched a show over and over and over and over again. And this is a direct quote from a major network. We love the idea. We need to have a different presenter as like the main person because, quote, our audience doesn't find women intellectually credible.
Oh.
End quote. And if that was
dear
only
God.
one, like if that was only one, and like that is the regular reason of like, this is a great idea. We're so excited about this. This is really innovative. We need a guy in charge. And that's what's on the back end of things. And it's incredibly frustrating. I know Katrina Weidman runs into the same problem and just done. Indie is hard. Indie is expensive. It's a huge risk. It's it's going to be on YouTube, but does that mean it's going to be on Netflix? Probably not. Does it mean somebody might pick it up like Amazon? We're going to aim for that. But we want the story more than we want a big name like shadowing over it to get it out there.
Yeah. It's nice to not be slaves to algorithms and things like that.
Seriously, more and more where it's like just, I mean, at this point, you can't even like say a 4-letter word without the algorithm burying you, and that just annoys me.
It's fair.
I know. Erin, why don't you jump in here?
Well, I'm honored to meet you. I've been following you since Paranormal State, way before I had any clue that I would be sitting on a podcast talking to you face to face. And I'm fascinated from the energetic perspective. I do Reiki and do have some abilities, but I was looking at the website. I've been on it a bunch over the last couple of months, but you have a quote on there that really screamed at me. And if it's okay, I want to read it, but then I have a question after it. And the quote is, "The currents of vital energy flow through our world like currents in the ocean. We move through them and are, in turn, moved by them. Every living thing contributes to that endless tide, just as every living thing relies upon it. It is part of the webwork of the world in which we live, an endlessly reciprocal cycle of breath and light." And that just made my brain explode because it makes sense to me. And so my question is, you've worked with Kat Mason to portray the energy bodies that you see. And I've never seen anything like that. I've seen aura readings. I know what I see when I read energy. But so I'm interested in how you sort of tap into that and how the information sort of presents itself to you, because there's so much detail in that artwork and the explanations are so clear. I've just never seen anything like it. And I find it absolutely fascinating.
So something that doesn't come out a lot is I am the founder of my own energetic system. I wrote the core text for it when I was 21, 1994. And it has been printed and translated and all over, like it's kind of a big deal. And it has influenced a bunch of people. So here's how it started. I can perceive energy and auras and stuff. And I started at a very, very early age of like, this is just part of my reality. But as I started to dig into books like Anadea Judith's Wheels of Light, the chakras and everything, and I'd read about energy bodies, and I looked into Reiki, and I had a first generation Chinese American like teach me some core Qigong stuff that his family had brought over. And there were key things that were very similar, and then important things that were quite different from what I instinctively could do. The thing that I didn't see in other traditions, that like you get a little bit of it in Qigong and you get a little bit of it in Reiki, is like this internal structure, not just the meridians of energy channels, not only the chakras, but a complicated, layered energetic anatomy that is unique from person to person, broadly follows like certain things. Like you find energy centers, although it's never as simple as there's just 7 and they're like colored like the rainbow from the root. And it expands out beyond the person. And the way it flows reveals, at least to me and to the people who work in our system, emotional content, blockages, issues on the person's path, karmic knots that they carry along, scars and wounds from physical as well as mental and emotional things, connections that they have to spirits who are guides or sometimes parasites. And it takes a very, I coined the term meta-surgery because I didn't find anything else that like really dug into not just like putting your hands on someone to get energy into them, but actually like got
Correct.
and like shifted and changed and cleansed and worked with that flow. And could adjust stuff in the centers. So that's a core of my personal practice. It's something I've been teaching for 30 years now, 35 years. I've lost track.
I just find all that fascinating. And I think, what I love about the new show that you're doing too, is that you're getting all of these people together who all represent different facets of all things metaphysical, spiritual, all those different umbrellas. And everybody's working together to learn about each other, learn about what each person can discover. And I think that from an energetic perspective is also something that is never represented in any of the paranormal TV shows, especially with women. So I'm going to definitely have to get the information about your methodology, because I love energy. And so when I heard you were going to be on the show, I was like, because energy to me, I see everything that way. I don't know if I know when you get these energy bodies that you've had created in art, but do you also tend to see people, places, and situations more as frequency in a third eye sense than, oh, this is my friend Allison or whatever? It's more, you get like the rush of energy and how it appears to you.
You have caught me on something. People probably have noticed that I'm really bad with names, and I sort of managed to fake my way through it. I get a person's vibe, like a person is a feel and a sound and like this like neural network of associations.
Yes.
And there's like this holistic thing, like this ontological reality that is them feel. That is way more than like a name can ever hold. So like I know the mind feel of the person, but I'm not always going to remember Bob, Mary, or Fran.
I'm terrible with names too, but I can remember what they felt like later. And I started noticing things like people would appear as static or tar, different things like that. And so obviously it's a great tool to navigate before you meet with somebody, but just to be able to have a chance to talk to somebody about this stuff from an energetic perspective, because I find that gets so lost in only energy work and only metaphysical things. Whereas I know in the paranormal field, which I'm new to, I fell into this about 2 years ago. I've always been fascinated, but here I sit talking to Michelle Belanger on a Sunday night, that the two, they're interconnected and you can't have one without the other. And I feel like I'm getting ready to go spend almost a little over 2 weeks at the Conjuring House, staying on the property, working there. And I know, I don't know how that happened either, but again, here I am. So, and people are like, are you scared? I'm like, nothing about that house scares me, but energetically, having spent some time there already, I know I'm not quite prepared for how to balance my own energy, their energy, and how to maintain it, but they're intertwined. And so to be able to have these conversations about energy, I just love, it's funny, my whole body's vibrating. You can probably feel it.
Well, because of the popularity of practices like yoga, Reiki, like they've become kind of democratized. Most people are at least somewhat conversant with the idea that like there's an energy body, that people have an energy body, there's a flow that's important. But we often sort of lose in that places have a characteristic to their energy, and they also have structures and flows and channels and patterns that are perceptible, that can be can contribute to the wellness of the space as well as the people who come into it, also contribute to their discomfort, can bring in parasites, can bring in good things, can be changed and influenced. So houses have essentially an energy body as well. Even if we might not think of them as sentient beings, they are nevertheless things that have substance, and we interact with that.
It's all just so fascinating. So what would you say for somebody like me because I am going to take this chance, because why not? I don't have hardly any investigative experience at all. Just never really had the chance. And so I'm going to go spend 18 days on this property. What would you recommend? I have a pretty decent grounding practice, and I know that yours is probably very involved in more than you want to get into. But if you had to pick like one thing for somebody like me who's very sensitive to energy, kind of flying blind, what would you recommend for somebody like me to do to prepare for that?
Spend some time getting a very clear sense of like, how do I feel when I am not in this space?
Okay.
Very, very tiny things. And actually, if possible, like write down some bullet points of like, what does your interior reality energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically, how do you feel on a regular day when you are not in the conjuring house? So then you will be more equipped to recognize, I don't normally feel like this. Is this because I ate some food too late at night, or is this something else?
Okay.
So if you've got a good sense of your cycles and your patterns, then you can recognize when something from outside of you is influencing them.
Okay. That's really good advice. Because yeah, I think, you know, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm super excited. But again, I'm so new at this stuff, you know, and so, and it's a rabbit hole that you can never get out of if you don't want to. And I bought Psychic Energy Codex, and it's coming with me.
I was going to say, like, the book that I'd recommend would be that one, because
I bought it. I have it.
Like, I am an energy worker. I am also an academic who has escaped from universities, and it shows.
Well, and I think the thing that also fascinates me is you're such a scholar, and you've done so much research, and you've done so much writing and learning and studying. Of all the different subjects that you study, do you have one that's closest to your heart?
Mythology and folklore, I think, is the one, because people tell stories and people are stories. And the way in which we put our world into context is to tell stories about the parts that don't make a lot of sense. And we reveal an incredible amount of our truth in those stories, even if those stories aren't actually fact.
Right.
And I like picking through the layers and seeing the truths of humanity as they are expressed in the stories that we tell.
That's amazing. And I'm also curious, of all the books you've written, I'm done peppering you after this, I think, I swear.
Oh no,
but what's the book that's taken you the most amount of time and the most amount of research to put together, to put out?
The Dictionary of Demons, hands down.
Because it's the most comprehensive book writing out there, is it not?
As comprehensive as it can be. I mean, obviously, if I wanted to put every proper demon name in a book, I would have a volume of dictionaries that would be as big as the Encyclopedia Britannica. Like it's an enormous topic. I had to narrow it down predominantly to names that appear in grimoiric or ritual texts from Western Christian Europe between about 1300 to 1900, broadly, with, of course, some biblical stuff that like you can't overlook when you're talking about that. And even so, it's still like 1,700 names.
Good God.
Now, it was helpful that I can read French. I can read enough German to know that I need to ask somebody to help me with my German. I can,
not the book you want to mess up the translations on, right?
No, exactly. I can fake my way through my Italian and my Spanish, and I've got a background in Latin, which was really helpful. That book wouldn't have been able to come together before the like the Gutenberg projects and like the Google Book projects, where they started to digitalize the libraries, because most of the books that I'm sourcing for it are in libraries at like, the British Museum and Leipzig, and like I would have had to like do a grand tour of Europe that I really couldn't afford.
Great idea in theory, but there's that whole money thing, right?
Yeah. And having some friends in academia like sneak me their accounts so I could get access to some of the really good ones was also
What's helpful. The oldest book you've gotten to touch?
I picked up a book on exorcism and demonology I had never heard of fairly obscure from the Spanish Inquisition, and it is from the 1600s. And when I saw it show up on the Treadwell's site, I was just like, oh, that's pricey. And also, this isn't scanned anywhere. I've never seen this. I need this. And it is in my collection. That's the oldest one that I personally own, and the oldest one that I've like actually got my little hot hands on. I keep promising myself that somewhere in my abundant free time, I will at least translate enough of it to like give people an overview of like what this is about. Because there's always really neat nuggets in those. There's also like, you know, pants on fire, wild like beliefs, but those themselves are also revealing of socioeconomic things, and like just they are these fantastic nuggets of history that tell us again.
Nope, we froze.
I think she froze. 1600s. Hopefully she'll go out and come back in. She's just fascinating.
Yeah, Michelle, if you're not already noticing, you have frozen on screen. It could be, again, all that smoke coming down from Canada. If you're able to probably log off and log back on again, we'll pick it up with this conversation right where we left off. But right now, we don't have you anymore, darling. So go ahead and log yourself off from the channel and go back to the same link, and then we'll take it from there. So we're going to wait there. Let me go ahead and pull that one off and see if she logs in with a new one. But wow, that's an incredible experience to be able to put your hands on something from that century and
that
deal
old.
with. Yeah. I wouldn't even begin to imagine.
Michelle is logging back in now.
Okay.
I think that I just think about, you know, all the studying she's done, all the places she's been, the books she's read, the things she's learned. I mean, to be able to learn from someone like her is just incredible for someone like me who's still new and trying to figure out things. I mean, what an opportunity to be able to really dive into her work. And
yeah, but again, it kind of gives you an idea of where the mentality comes from in Hollywood. Here is somebody that can probably outthink 90% of the field and 100% of the people that wind up on these shows. But it's
contest.
Yeah, because
It's
she's
not.
got the wrong gender. She's not accepted for that lead role, and that's corruption as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I think that the thing about Michelle is that she touches on so many facets of this, things that we probably don't have the time for. I'm not one really to, you know, dabble in demonology and things like that. So to have someone that well-rounded who touches on all these various aspects, and I don't mean just looking them up to find some cursory information. I'm talking about taking that deep dive into these things, where the point is I'm going to take this facet of the paranormal occult, I'm going to study it, research it, write a book on it.
right.
Well, that's the difference,
It's
though.
incredible.
That's it. It's all about what's going on with regards to the research, and not a scenario of how can I dramatize what is history. You know, she's just going and researching and looking at the way that humanity has reacted for centuries with regards to these demonic figures. You know, just states it as fact, and doesn't sit there and all of a sudden say, as I was reading about the demons, my whole room started shaking, you know, and all the other crap that comes along with that. I give her a lot of credit for being an academic and not being dramatic, you know. But again, the flair for the dramatic is what they seem to be looking for these shows, and that probably would be more logical if I were in the head of one of these producers and to simply say, you know, bottom line, Michelle, is that you're too smart. We need to dumb it down for our audience.
Freaking smart.
Well, I think That's such a shame too, because, you know, honestly, I mean, I've known who she was since I first saw Paranormal State, and that came out, what, early 2000s. But up until I really got involved with this field and this community, I had zero clue about all of the incredible work she's done and the intelligence that, you know, and that's just such a shame. That the most fascinating thing about her, I mean, obviously her method and how she gets information when she goes on location is fascinating to me as well, but they're leaving out the most interesting part of a person like her, you know?
I had the privilege, the honor of meeting Michelle some 10 years ago in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I can honestly tell you that someone of that level of intellect, someone who is that well read and that well educated, would either come across to me as a judgment call, as a bookworm, as kind of an introvert or arrogant. She didn't fit any of those bills. She is just one of the most down to earth people that you've ever met. And I cherish my connection with her. I can't say friendship. We don't get a chance to really have much dialogue online, but just every time that I have any type of interaction with her, I'm the better for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Still waiting for her to come back in. We're guest tonight, Michelle Belanger. And again, Ken, if you want to explain where she's at and the conditions that they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, she's coming back in. I was just going to talk about some of the storms that are raging down there, but she's back with us.
Back.
Apparently, we're not supposed to talk demons. That was funny. Also, a little like no. So of course, fireworks and everything. Something just went kablam outside, just enough to rattle the windows, and then just like everything stopped. Even my hotspot. I'm like, what? But what? Like that should.
While you were gone, you're going to love this. While you were gone, I said, you know what's amazing about Michelle? She talks about the historical facts that are presented by authors from the 1600s about demons. But she never, when she's talking about this, ever says, oh, my God, while we're talking about the demons, my house started rattling. What happened?
Right.
Mostly joking that was the thing. I think, well, you know, I have no clue what that was. I will say this, is my house is very well warded. So if something untoward managed to make it in, I would notice. And honestly, one of the resident spirits would let me know first. So I never really feel particularly concerned. It's
Spirit security system.
Yeah, no, actually, I highly recommend it. If there are spirits that you work with, like, why put the mental energy into like making sure that like they're like, I've got nothing better to do, and they're
I'll be here all day.
Yeah, no, like please, like hold the boundaries for me. That's great. I'll put out little offerings for you. Here, have some orange juice. It's great.
That's great. I love it. Well, thank you for letting me pick your brain. It's been an honor.
I would show off the book, but it's like a room over, and I don't want. I'm gonna just be like hawking over this to make sure I stay connected now. Like when even my hotspot is just like, nah, the internet doesn't exist. Sorry.
And listen,
go ahead, Ken.
One of the things I wanted to hit on tonight, because the last time you were on, we got into some things in terms of you know, our country, our social climate, and things like that, and there was bit of a warning to people in the paranormal community that you're not exempt from some of the things that's going on if someone doesn't agree in your ideology, your religion, you know, what you follow, your ethos, your faith, whatever the case may be. And I was having a discussion with somebody this week about that, and I wanted to get your take on it because you have a presence on social media, which is at the same time a blessing and a curse.
Oh God, yes.
And I want to address specifically I'm not casting with a wide net here, but the love and light people who espouse this type of thing, and we're here to help people, and the typical things you have people say, who I found are just as capable of the most vile, myopic, prejudicial, help me, Michelle, I need more adjectives here.
Well, righteousness and zealotry can be just as destructive, if not more so, than malicious, like willfully malicious destruction. Because I actually argue that somebody who is doing evil in the name of righteousness is more damaging, because convincing them that what they're doing is horrible, you're just never going to. Whereas sometimes people will do willfully malicious stuff and they're just like, I didn't fully comprehend the impact on other people. But someone who's like, no, my God told me that I am supposed to kill all of the people who are like this.
Right.
How do you can't argue with that. You can't reason with that.
No.
And if folks in the paranormal are like, well, but it won't, the people who eat leopard, the face-eating leopards are not going to eat my face, to borrow a thing from the internet. I'm sorry, but they're going to. I am old enough to know that this bubble that we exist into, this happy bubble where it's okay to do paranormal shows, is already on the wane. If you just look at how many shows are suddenly just all demons, all exorcism, all very traditional, like it's all bad and you are spiritual warriors to protect yourself, that does not leave a lot of room for, if it's not a demon, that you could work peaceably with spirits. And if you are someone who's coming from a different viewpoint, there was a time, not too long ago, I live in a small, very red town in Ohio. It's called Medina. It's got this charming little town square with a gazebo. They do Shakespeare in the park every summer. It's very artsy and also has some very incredibly conservative people in it. I offered my services. TV person. I'm like, hey, library, you did awesome things for me when I was a kid. I will do a free lecture seminar on ghost hunting and the paranormal for you. How about we do that to get people into the library? It took one church and 3 people to write in arguments to the Medina Gazette to picket it. They had to shut down all of the paranormal things because that was belief. And we were trying to corrupt the minds of the children at the library by teaching them about ghosts.
Oh, right.
And
because
their argument was like, well, this is a religion. And I'm like, it's not a religion, but it's about belief in the afterlife. And we object to that. And it shouldn't be in the library. And all of the stuff that we're now very familiar with the arguments against drag queens reading children's books. But
yes, I live in Florida, so yes.
Yeah, no, I tell you, it's not going to stop at drag queens. And it has never stopped.
That's just the beginning.
Oh no! If I read a book on the life of Neil Armstrong, I don't think I'd be able to fly a rocket with it. So to say all of these things are influencing in one way. My concern about this, beyond the hypocrisy, is the idea when we do an interview with someone who reaches out to us. Is one of the questions suddenly going to come? What gender do you identify as? Is that going to be part of the questionnaire now? When you arrive at a location, do you excuse yourself because you find out that one of their children is going through a gender affirmation procedure, or I'm
intersex. I'm automatically just a corrupting influence by existing. I was born not this and not that, and I can't go. I literally, in some states, I can't use I can't use a public bathroom.
Yeah,
because I'm not either, and never.
Do you leave if you find out they're a same-sex couple? Or you find out that they voted for the bad guys in the last election? To what extent are you going to take your words? Are your actions going to belie your words? Because that makes you hypocritical. But I found some of the most sanctimonious, righteous people are also among the most, I don't know. I
have a very narrow definition of evil. Because I don't even necessarily classify all demons as evil. It really depends on what does a being do. And to me, selfishness, acting purely in self-interest without any concern for what it does to others, and often with full awareness of what it does to others and no care that it causes harm. To me, and it is supremely selfish, destructive, and I will go so far as to say evil, to take whatever your particular way of living is and impose that on other people, either by demanding that they capitulate, assimilate, or erase them from existence, either legally or by literally going and shooting them up. Like that.
Yeah.
Somehow managed to work in the words freedom and liberty into it.
Yeah. And
Right.
I have,
Right.
I mean, I am an old school, angry, loud activist. I mean, I cut my teeth as a little like queer kid on Hothead Paisan, the homicidal lesbian terrorist, and Dykes to Watch Out For. These were like the things that you read in like the 90s. It's where the Bechtel test comes from, actually, Dykes to Watch Out For. So, and also a very loud, like a goth. And living in and existing in these marginalized communities, which were some of the only places that I could also authentically be an energy worker. And this type of psychic that I am, in the 80s and the 90s, there was not room in the metaphysical world for anything that wasn't just crunchy white light. You were either like reacting to the satanic panic by saying, oh no, we are all love and light, it is Christ consciousness, and no, nobody does any of that dark stuff. That's dark and evil and bad, and that's those people over there, they deservedly should be in jail, it's terrible. But when you're one of those people where it's like, but what about a world that isn't as simple as black and white? What about a world that's actually a little bit more nuanced?
Right.
And we
But it's fear.
Oh no, it totally is.
And I like to your. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just fear create hate is caused by fear. Fear brings destruction.
And no one should be afraid.
No.
No one should. So when you start espousing, give me the love and light kind of thing, your actions speak louder than your words. If that's the life you want to live, because as the saying goes, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well, there's toxic spirituality too. I mean, where you have. She may have frozen again. Is she still there? Yeah, I think she froze again.
Yeah, we've frozen again. Darn it. Okay, we're going to be coming soon anyway.
Michelle, do the reboot thing once again. We're sorry that we're having these complications, but as you said, right now with what you're dealing with in the Ohio area from Canada, so we're going to bring you offline, allow you to reboot and come on back in again, hopefully before the top of the hour. Fascinating. I again, one of these things that I love about Michelle, she's candid. She's not pulling any punches, and everything she says has a rational base to it. There's not anything that is being thrown out there that is just strong.
Well, it's a life lived too, George.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Through trials and tribulations of being a citizen in this country and being judged for the way that you look or the way that you live, and it's in the 21st century, in the year 2023. That is still happening is it's mind-boggling, and I wonder at times as to whether or not there needs to be some sort of reckoning that's coming up that people will realize this is minutia. The things that we're reacting about is minutia, and it's not big scale. Unfortunately, social media and those media moguls that are out there are pushing agendas that people feed into. And if it's on my news channel, it must be important and it must be big.
It's an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Driven by, again, algorithms and demographics. What is it that our audience wants to hear? And we've seen that happen at the tune of about $878 million recently, where someone was called out for that.
But I can honestly say at the same time,
Take 45.
You got us off on a tangent now, Michelle. Now we're ranting over here.
I mean, this is I already lived through it once. Like so much of my life's Or
Oh, uh, uh, it's slowing down. It's
was
lagging. There we go. You're good.
There she
Go ahead.
goes.
about
No.
No.
Oh,
gently
It actually makes good for film.
pushing
But go ahead.
the if we're asking questions about like nope. Yep.
Choppy.
Yeah. So you understand what we're viewing
It's already
right now, Michelle, is
gone.
you
Hold
are
on.
breaking up, kind of choppy.
Oh, wait. Am
Yeah,
I back?
yeah, we're only getting bits and pieces at the moment, and probably would work out better right now too. We're about 2 minutes away from the top of the hour. That'll give you a chance to step away. We do want to continue on the other side of the break, and God willing, hopefully, we can get this rectified. I know I see the hands up in the air, but hopefully we can get that
Are we back?
reset,
I
rebooted.
can still see me. I can hear you.
Oh, now whatever that
Our audio's
was.
caught
Okay, well
up.
now I can see them and hear them, and
Yeah,
it's
well, it kind of comes and goes.
I don't know what the fuck's going on.
yeah, it's just jumping around. Which again, considering what you're dealing with coming in from Canada, I'm not surprised, and there's a good possibility that that may be part of the interference. But if you can still hear me, we're going to go to break here in about a minute. Try to reset and come back in with us, and if you can stay for us, if your voice can hang out for a little hour, a little bit longer with us in the second hour, we would greatly appreciate. There's so much more that we want to cover, we want to work with here, so. Please try to reset and come back with us, and we'll take our break here right about now. But yeah, we'll continue our conversation here once we can get her correctly back in with us, guys. So we're going to go to our break at this point in time. When we come back, hopefully we'll still be talking with Michelle Belanger. You put your questions in the chat, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
As UFO reports come in from around the world, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, is there. We continue to explore new cases and build our massive database. We share our information with the world in a number of ways. If you would like to be part of our investigative team, you are always welcome. What could be more exciting than exploring the UFO question firsthand? Join MUFON, find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected. Only at kgradb.com.
She's back.
For how long you don't know, that was just again, every time there was a boom from a very specific spot where I'm like, is somebody just blowing up? Like, what's even going on over there?
Some in the chat are talking about a storm in the Ohio area. Do you have storms? Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we've got storms, we've got fireworks, we've got secondhand fire. Yeah, just a little bit of everything. It's
the apocalypse is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. So let's do
Armageddon.
It's a very slow apocalypse. Like my friends have a joke, and it's one of those like, ha ha, this is a joke, right? But like, you know, that whole idea of like ages and cycles, and like we were in like the fifth sun and it was supposed to end in 2012. So what if it did, and this is actually our post-apocalyptic world?
It just drags on.
Before something actually like then gets put back together from the pieces, and we're just stuck in this weird limbo where everything's kind of poop.
Most of the time.
True.
Yep.
True.
I mean, like I said, it's one of those like, ha ha.
I know that.
Guys, welcome back to the second hour. We will try not to wear Michelle out. Again, we got more we're going to talk about topically. We had a little bit of a interruption there, but then she saged, and now we're okay to go. So, Ken, you had another question?
Yeah. Before we get into some questions in chat, I wanted to touch on something else, kind of downshifting here. Attention, big part of what we do and how we approach this, and it's a key word. And attack the other side, or getting in touch with our real selves. But there's two sides to that door, and there's also intention on the other side as well. What is the intention of the people that we are attempting to connect with? So, Michelle, some sound advice from you. How do you navigate those two things to discern, you know, I'm coming at it in a positive light, is it being reciprocated to?
I mean, the first thing is assume everything that you're dealing with is sentient and therefore has as much like right to exist as well as have its own opinions as you do. And with that knowledge, like assume that things will behave like people. Some of them are good, some of them are assholes, some of them are just really hurt and angry and lashing out. And the only sure way I have found to tell the difference, especially above, like, we all carry biases, and if something seems like big and dark and spooky or like violent, it's easy to say, oh, that's an evil spirit, as opposed to a very wounded spirit that is like, or scared, it's like puffing itself up to try to drive you out. The only thing that works is gentle, persistent communication, respecting boundaries when they're pushed out like that, but also just observing over time, is this something actually actively trying to cause harm? You know, and examining like, am I afraid because this is something that's unknown to me? Am I afraid because I legitimately feel like I am in danger? Why do I feel like I'm in danger? Is it just because I've been told that playing with a Ouija board is scary and is going to open a portal to hell? Or or are all of my instincts going off and telling me like, no, really, just GTFO right now, something's not right.
Yeah.
Is there an approach that you take? Do you waver from that at all if you're going to a place where the stories or via self-diagnosis already suggest that there's something malevolent there? Do you modify your approach of it?
For me, especially if everyone has told me, no, this place is evil, there's terrible things, that's when I try to set everything aside.
Mm-hmm.
And just go in with as open a mind as possible. I mean, obviously not like, completely, naked mentally, prepared for the eventuality of like, oh, nope, there's really something bad here. But also, I come at it like this. I am a goth. In the 80s and 90s, the way that I dressed in the clubs that I went to, everybody said that we were evil. If you went there, we were going to sacrifice you. There was terrible stuff. We were just because of the way we looked, automatically horrible, evil people that were doing awful ritual things. And none of that was true. If we went only by the stories, if we went only by appearances, and we judged that way, we would miss out learning about a lot of amazing people and a lot of amazing things. And that's sort of like just my whole thing.
It's happening today.
Yeah. No, it's everywhere. Like there's always a bigger story.
We're not evolving, at least.
Yeah, don't even get started on that. Like, because we're going right back to the satanic panic. It infuriates me. Actually, it demoralizes me as someone who was an activist, like who worked so hard to get us to a point where, like in the paranormal, it wasn't just all Ed and Lorraine Warren, like throw some holy water at it and call it a demon. Where we we have hit a point where we are willing to allow witches to practice their rituals in paranormal stuff, because that wasn't always a thing. That we would allow for the possibility that an occultist isn't just someone who, oh, well, they have a pentagram on the floor and therefore they were summoning Satan and this is why this place is haunted and like clearly ritual sacrifice. And no, it's just a bunch of kids listening to heavy metal music. Get over yourself. Like it's it's not all that. Don't go in with preconceived notions. Like, try to be a good citizen of the cosmos.
Yeah.
And
I want to ask this question, keeping
sorry.
with that, Michelle, and then we got 3 questions in chat I want to certainly get to before your voice gives out. But
or whatever decides that I just need to be yeeted off the internet today.
Let's. I want to focus on that pentagram wise because just recently, Ken's group Rise Up Paranormal went to the Shanley, and on the 3rd floor in one of the rooms, somebody had set up a Ouija board, and I'm sure a lot of it is prop, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Again, it's a haunted location, and there's also a pentagram on the floor. Tell me about intent. Again, you got a bunch of goth kids that want to listen to a certain type of music, with Pantera, 9 Inch Nails, whatever it may be. And this is just something that they're doing. But then there's somebody else who has intent as they're drawing that, intent for something nefarious. Does that change the energy with regards to just that symbol?
It can. So it's got a lot to do with like where a person's coming from. And whenever possible, if you find a symbol or the residue of a ritual or something that like even a book on a shelf that you're like, if you can find the person it belongs to and you can have a good conversation with them, an open-minded conversation, be like, what does this mean to you? That's very important. Now, while this is not common, the more we make things big and spooky, and like the horror movies of the 70s, and like there was demonic stuff was just such a big deal, and like the sort of like ghost-sploitation stuff, and the music of the 80s, you definitely had some people who were like, I am a rebellious edgelord, and I am going to literally try to summon Satan with my friends. Now, are they going to be able to summon Satan, an archdevil, or even a demon? Unlikely, but are they going to be able to invite an energy that's willing to pick up the mask that they have handily given to it in order to scare them, have an interaction, like basically fill the void that they've created. Yes. Even if a spirit doesn't happen, something that we don't talk about a lot with investigations is, at least something that I pick up, what the living people have done, including investigators, but also people engaged in rituals or other activities, can leave a trace in the place as well that is perceptible.
Yeah.
And if you, it's a very thin line to navigate. Is this an echo of something someone imagined being at this space, but imagined it so hard, had it as a nightmare?
Sure.
The most telling place was Trans-Allegheny.
Oh, I love Tala.
They dropped me in a room where there was somebody who was just beset by like profound delusions of being attacked and schizophrenia, demonic activity, possession, voices, things like that. That's a fairly typical presentation of really extreme cases. To this person, all of that was real. And they experienced it over an extended period of time in a tiny space. And so when you walk into that room as a psychic, you basically click into the real of what this person experienced. And it is almost impossible to distinguish from an actual spirit. Like, it feels like you're in a room full of like demons and horrible spirits. They're all yelling at you. And the only way to tell is like, and then it's sort of like on a loop. Like nothing interacts back with you if you interact with it. It's like walking through a haunted, like a haunted attraction haunted house. Like it's all, you start to see the wires after a while.
Incredible.
But intent does play a big role. And there is always the most dangerous ones, and I don't say dangerous lightly. The most dangerous ones are someone who has some innate talent and is getting super dark and super edgelord because they're raised in a situation where they're not allowed to actually express themselves. They've been told that everything's evil, that to be psychic is evil, that to study witchcraft is evil. So their conclusion as a team is that, well, if I'm going to be evil, I'm going to be the most damn evil thing I can be. And some of these people grow out of it. Some of these people are my friends. But when that person is 14 or 15 in a stew of adolescent hormones and bad decisions, and just trying to prove to themselves that they either are as evil as their family or their religion or their society tells them that they are, or that they've internalized, and they have a little bit of talent or a lot of talent, that is when things can get very, very off the rails. And I say that from experience as someone who definitely did some things when I was like 13, 14, and 15, and slumber parties went very, very south very quickly.
Well,
I can't wait for that book to come out.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On that note, because I think, and this is just a thought I have, you know, we in school we learn about energy, and I hate to keep bringing it back to energy, but that's what everything is anyway.
Well, no, yeah.
You know, it's everything, literally. But we only learn about energy in school as like a fossil fuel or radio frequency. Do you think if children were taught about energy and how it affects the human body, the space around you, and all the things that we're connected to, do you think the world would be a kinder place to live?
Oh, yes. Like if we actually internalized like the reality that it's not just that there's some weird mycelium network that connects all the trees and all the plants and lets them talk, that like literally we are all part of a larger organism. And even if you don't want to think of it as like a physical thing or an energetic thing, like the collective unconscious, like all you have to think about to accept that we are connected in a way that is deeper and more meaningful than we, I think, are courageous to admit. Like, I think we're afraid to admit it. We've all had a friend who's going through something and they haven't texted or let us know, but like we feel something, like we know something's wrong with them. And like, by what mechanism do you know? Like, they didn't pick up the phone, but you still had that telegraphed to you, and you can feel to a greater or lesser extent what they're feeling. Your day is now off because your friend had a crappy day, even if you didn't know that was what was going on. And multiple times we can confirm that. How many people started to just, how many people's mental health has degraded significantly? Not only because of lockdowns, but like, there is just a tremendous amount of worldwide suffering that has been packed into a tiny period of time. We have got so much death and suffering and misery and war and torture, and it doesn't take a psychic for that to start to just like crawl up the back of your head. We're all connected. The suffering of one is the suffering of all. If we could really internalize that and maybe take it outside of the language of just like, I don't know, it's not just a religious belief. Like, this is an organic proof. We're connected. We all impact one another. Our choices, our behaviors, our kindness, or our hate.
Well, these people have to reconcile that, because if there is power in collective prayer, and I'm not suggesting that we're addressing, a deity. I'm just talking about people's collective energy as a means to an end. Then it stands to reason that connection extends into other things as well.
Yeah.
Quantum entanglement.
And we are frozen again, it looks like, Michelle. But we are, Michelle, you're frozen again. I know you can hear us, so I'm going to ask, I know this is frustrating, but I'm going to ask you to reboot it and come back in one more time, because at the least, we definitely want to promote new blood and everything else that's going on with you out there before we let you go. So at this time, go ahead and bring yourself off and come back in again. There we go. She's going to do that for us right now. Fascinating topics on this. And Ken, and we had this discussion somewhat, and I wish we had more time with Michelle to discuss where we were going last week. Again, when we were doing the post-mortem and talking about the aspect that the spirits are not only around us on a regular basis, that they can read our thoughts and perhaps relay messages, and that we're maybe where that possibility is that we're aware of things that are happening to people that we're familiar with, people that we care about, and these messages are being relayed to us subconsciously. I mean, it's just, to me, endless and endless possibilities. But right now, as a body, we as a species, we're like red blood cells killing red blood cells.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It would not surprise me if it was really part of our genetic code. So which is why I say in this field, please, keep moving technology forward, invent whatever it is that you want to invent. But I think the thing that is going to really move the needle probably won't be the next machine that's invented. It'll be a study of the human condition, how our brain works, how our mind works, how our perceptions work. The idea that somehow or another we're all intrinsically tied, because God knows we've spent a few 100 years trying to disprove that theory within ourselves, because all we are good at this point is just whatever the next war or conflict is. I don't know if, I think it would be great to teach these kind of things in school, but one can just imagine in this climate how that would be accepted. If you call yourself something for liberty and freedom and you're trying to ban books.
Yeah. Well, we live in a society where fences, walls, avoid your neighbor. We are built now on division. So there's really no impetus for people outside of people who are, already sort of aware that there is this connection.
Well,
there's really no impetus for them to explore.
Division is profitable too.
Also true.
Quite profitable.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah,
So,
and let's keep adversarial sides, because that's a way to build upon from that hatred, that anger, that frustration, and which is a shame of the matter, because when it comes right down to it, there is not a single solitary person on this planet that does not eventually lose a loved one.
Yes.
And if you are lucky or you're paying attention to the signs, there's a very good chance that there will be some sort of a message brought forth to you. And when you can connect and you do realize that, it's life changing. It truly, truly is. And you want to search for more. The unfortunate part of it is, again, is that in that circumstance, and I'm going to use the word God in this, but God forbid that kind of situation happens to somebody who's on the wrong side of the fence. Now you are delving into the satanic. Now you are delving into things you shouldn't, because the church doesn't allow it, because it's not right for you to go down based upon your Christian faith, that pathway, or whatever faith that will deem this as being demonized. And it's, we've experienced too much in this field in a positive aspect to turn around and villainize it, because our beliefs are supposed to villainize it. Let's face the facts. Let's look at what we're collecting. Let's look at how we're communicating and take the positive from that and not turn it into a negative, because we are socially programmed to do so.
yeah, I mean, if you're going to pretend to be the difference, and this goes back to what I was saying about some of the people who espouse love and light and preach it, and listen, like, it's not like anybody can pretend that they're not somebody that they really are on Facebook, right? Big surprise there. Right. But if you're doing those kind of things and you vow to help people, and that's the reason for your existence and doing this, and you just want to spread a positive message, and you walk into somebody's house and you find out in their spare time they dress in drag. Do you, A, beat feet out of the house because you don't embrace their lifestyle? Or do you go in and just kind of half-ass it a little bit? Because it's not just a certain group of people that call you and put their trust in you to give them some help in figuring out some of these things.
Right.
It's not. Okay, so I am a little concerned about the attitudes of some of these people. And with that said, they're entitled to their own opinions. This is not a question of you shouldn't say, listen, you're guaranteed the right to say what you will, but you have to live it. In order to be the difference that you claim you want to be, like it or not, you have to live it. Because well done is better than well said. Okay, and that's just a lesson that I learned from a young age. You can talk all sorts of talk.
Well, and you get into toxic spirituality. I mean, I see it all the time in my line of work. And like you said, it's everything's rainbows and unicorns all the time. And I meditate once a week now, so now I'm enlightened. It's like, but did you pull all your nasty inner stuff about yourself out and have a good long look, understand you're human, kind of rationalize that? You have to balance the light with the dark, and you can't do like what you just said. You can't be a person who just talks it and walks it, but you have to look at the dark side of it too. There's a dichotomy and a balance to everything.
Well, again, it's the hypocrisy, because people in this field will say the paranormal, anything's possible. Anything is possible, but for the rest of their lives, everything is black and white. Yeah. Paranormal is unprovable. You can't document it. I mean, so, what's your approach? I mean, what are you going to do? Because people are going to know who you are. And if suddenly the only people you want to help fit into your purview or your worldview, I say good, more for me.
Right. Yeah.
You can have them. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, George, if we're going to get Michelle back. It may be, who knows?
Yeah, she may have thrown her hands up in frustration also.
Yeah,
And,
it bears repeating to everybody that's viewing tonight here on Dead Air that there are some storms in Ohio where Michelle is, and we're well aware of that. And if this doesn't work out, then I mean we're thrilled for the hour and 15 minutes that she spent with us. But we'll see if she shows up again. We'll stop talking.
yeah, we again on top of that, they're getting the clouds of smoke coming down from Canada, and that could be blocking some satellite connection. Who knows? But hopefully we will get her back.
George, do you want to take some of the questions anyway, or do you want to hold off for a little while? See what happens.
Let's go to the bottom of the hour. We'll wait to the bottom of the hour because what I wanted to do right now is ask Aaron.
Yes, sir.
I hate you. When are you going to the Conjuring House, and what will you be doing there?
I'm leaving next Sunday night or Sunday morning, and I am driving up to Rhode Island. I need to be there by the 11th.
Mm-hmm.
As far as exactly what I'm doing, I'll be helping with the camping tours. I'll be helping doing some admin work.
What is a camping tour in a paranormal realm?
So they are now offering camping on the property, and I think there's 6 different sites.
Yeah.
So basically you can book a tent. You get a tour of the land itself, so the backyard, the barn, around the barn, around the house, over the bridge, into the woods, the whole 9. Yep. And then you get to investigate it for the night. So it's pretty cool. It's something that she's just launched recently. So it was funny because I was talking to Roger about it the other day. He's like, I tried for years to get a permit to allow camping on that property, and they wouldn't let me do it. But I think it's just a neat way for them to get to, because I find that outside is far more concentrated. And that's where my fascination lies, is with the land. So I'm super excited to be able to be involved with that. Although she did say you're going to have to stay in a tent on those nights. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
I have while we're on the subject of the Conjuring House, I have a breaking news to announce here.
Ooh.
On Dead Air for the first time. We have added another investigation to the Ocean State Paracon this year. It will be Friday night at the Conjuring from 7 to midnight. We had an opening there, and Jacqueline Nunez has very graciously reached out to find if we wanted to hold another investigation, because the first one on Sunday sold out very quickly. So there is another opportunity that is going to be posted on the Rise Up website. And those who follow us locally here, or if you want to fly in from the Philippines, you're welcome to do that. But we'll be posting that up as to how you can make reservations for that. So we're pretty excited about that. It's going to be a hell of a weekend.
Awesome.
Investigation Friday, the Conjuring movie in the theater Saturday, investigation Sunday night, and tours of the Conjuring House are offered during the weekend, on top of everything we've got planned for.
Where are the kids right now?
At the Conjuring House.
I have no idea.
Are they okay?
So, yeah, they're working up there this week.
For our regulars in the chat, if Cody happens to show up, or Satori, or both in the chat during this airing, the minute you see the name, immediately start harassing Cody and saying, respond to George's text. Because I got nothing yet. Oh, Ken's on it with his phone. He's like, I'll take care of this right now. No, I'm on the air right now, Ken. Don't yell at him, all right? Don't do that. But yeah, I mean, again, never having set foot on the property, I can only imagine that the 1-2 punch, the farmhouse is made of wood, and the trees are made of wood. And you, again, wonder how much energy retention, how much energy transmittance that will come from that to experience centuries of activity on that property, and what you can encompass. Much to be explored and much to be experienced, I can imagine. And I'm sure that's already run through your mind, especially being a sensitive, how you're going to sleep out there in a tent.
Well, it's funny because for the bulk of the time I'm there, she's putting another trailer on like a, I don't know if it's like Airstream or something like that on the property for employees to stay in. So because obviously she's got the house caretakers, but she needs extra space. So I think there's only 4 camping nights when I'm up there. So it's only like 4 nights that I'll be in the tent, which is, I'm totally fine with being in the tent, and I'll have the dog. So that'll be helpful. But I think it's one of those things where it's just such an incredible opportunity to bear witness to that location, but also to remember, like, I think the biggest thing for me is to be a student of that location. I mean, so many things to learn, so much to take in. And I think if you with intention and the right mindset, you can learn so much, but you have to be willing to want to learn about it.
Well, as a person who deplores nature, 4 days would be an eternity for me.
Oh, really? You don't like to be out? You don't like me outside?
I don't like going in the backyard and having gnats. No.
Well, it's 8,000 degrees in the center of the sun in Florida, so I get that. But generally, you're not an outside type.
No,
person?
not at all. Not at all. Give me my AC and my TV remote, and I'm a happy camper. Wait a minute.
We'll make ghost s'mores.
Ghost s'mores. That actually would be a genius idea.
Oh, the ghost s'mores.
Yeah, just
use
kind of little dye on the
yes.
Yeah, and then let it melt.
Marshmallows. It's a ghost s'more.
I love it.
When you do something like that, I mean, what is the normal diet to bring along for an outdoor event for 4 days? What do you normally snack on? Or are you guys going to build a little bonfire? Are they going to put a barbecue pit out there? How are they going to do that?
There's a fire pit.
They have a fire pit out there now, right? They've already started a fire pit. I think there's grills out near the tents. Of course, I won't know all that till I actually get my eyes on the setup there. But it sounds like quite a thing. But honestly, I don't really care what she asked me to do. Like, just to get to go up there for that length of time, I know what a privilege it is, and I am fully aware of that. And so I will do everything I can to do right by that house, do right by Jacqueline, and maybe they'll just let me live there all the time.
Well, somebody was mentioning again that, when you come back and talk about it, make sure that you constantly on your phone are doing small video clips and photography, not putting anybody that's a guest there on the spot, but certainly of the property. It's just one of those things that people are constantly fascinated with. So, again, I hate you. Yeah,
Ken's chuckling, going, Aaron's going to do none of that.
I see a Blair Witch project coming up here.
Well, guess whose house I'm running to in case things go south, Ken.
Yeah, I see it. Coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron inside the tent.
Telling the guy with the hook, missing hook. Okay, yeah, it's good. Why don't we hit those 3 questions at this point in time? I'm sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I mean, I've had just as many experiences in the middle of the day. In the 2 hours total I've spent walking that property, I've had just as many experiences. 40 hours in the house, 2 hours on the land. And the amount of activity balances out. And I wasn't in the woods at night. So we'll see.
That's great. I'm so happy.
Could be a short trip. No, thank you.
I'm thrilled. I'm actually thrilled. Ken, let's get to those questions then, sir.
Yeah, why not? We have one from Talik Motorsports Media. How you doing? So, what's the consensus? Are demons real? Now, Michelle's not here anymore, so we got to follow. Demons real?
Yeah, from a theological context, you could easily label things that seem to be dark or threatening. And, we've had enough guests on the show who deal with that aspect of this field to validate, yes, there are times where these things are happening. But as we spoke of last week, too, the malevolence of a human spirit can reach to that level. And how do we know that? Because there are human beings that can reach to that level.
Yeah.
So why not transfer that energy and be as ominous and threatening and deadly in the mindset of these spirits that are simply human? But, you talk to enough people that are out there that have dealt with them firsthand, They are a real part of the field of the paranormal. What about you guys?
If I absolutely had to give you an answer, I would probably lean more toward no.
Really?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bishop Long to the show. Oh, I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
I would lean toward more. I think that whatever we're encountering there is just like the word ghost. Ghost is a German word. It's also a Hollywood construct.
It's also
If
generic.
you say ethereal entity or something like that, people look at you funny. But when you say ghost, oh, okay, now I know what you're talking about. So demon is a name assigned for a malevolent entity, maybe, but it sits squarely in our religious purview of things. Because if you look, and homework for all of you in chat tonight, look up hell, Hades, Satan, look up those words and find out where they came from. And you're going to find out they did not come from Christianity or Catholicism. They came from things like North mythology, Egyptian mythology, and the stories were so good that the other religions kind of borrowed them to some degree. Hell, for example, is a woman, the deity, spelled Hel. And in Norse mythology, half her face was gorgeous, the other half was hideous, which was a representation of the duality of man, good and bad. So we add another hockey stick to it, and we call it hell. Their idea of hell in Norse mythology was to be condemned to a cold, brutal, icy existence for eternity, because that's what they knew. When these things came into the Middle East, Judaism, the worst conditions were heat and barren wastelands. So that became their idea of hell. It's kind of like cold as hell and hot as hell, right? It's like two different phrases, but they're cut of the same cloth. So I'm still reading up on it. So, but do your homework. We'll test you next week on it.
How about you, Aaron?
I mean, I think and somebody made a comment. I think it's a thing. I mean, I've got friends in that field who've seen some crazy things. You have too. I do think it's possible. I do agree with the notion that it's easier to just slap the word demon on anything that's not friendly.
Right.
I mean, Conjuring House is a prime example, right? I mean, you got some grumpy spirits in a lot of locations, and they've had people traipsing in and out of the house. And I think it's just easier to slap the scary moniker on it because, one, that's what sells, and it's the easiest explanation. Do I think they're real? Probably. Do I think they're common? No. But again, I don't really know. I mean, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. So, from that perspective, I would have to say, sure. But I haven't personally witnessed anything dark like that myself at this stage of the game. But again, I don't have much experience, obviously. I mean, you guys have, Ken, you've got 50 years? And I have not even 2. So I do think it's possible for sure. I just don't think they're as common as everybody thinks.
No, it throws back to the statement we've said time and time again on this show, back to the Blog Talk days of the best statement that could be made in the paranormal is I don't know. And because we have to consider the possibility, let's take a situation where there's a poltergeist activity going on in a home, and with the wrong investigative team going in the wrong direction could easily demonize that right away. And if the family or the victim themselves are religiously based, if they're Christian or the Catholic, whatever it may be, and you bring in somebody to read scripture and perform an exorcism, that poltergeist is going to react like a demon, even though that was manifested by a human being, by an individual. So to them, it seems like they are doing their job, their due diligence in removing this evil spirit, when in fact that's not the case whatsoever. There's, and this is why when we talk about demonology and possession, oppression, is that the Catholic Church goes through a rigorous testing before they can call it that and begin to look at the rites of exorcism. It's, you can't just jump to conclusion, and too many people do.
Well, I think a lot of these things are constructs, human constructs, because sometimes we can't grasp the level of evil that human beings are capable of. So we assign it to a third party. Because in our own worldview, it's like, how could someone do this? How could you even think this? Ronald DeFeo, the Amityville case. A demon forced him to do it. That's it. And we're done here. We have our answer. Where I think that, if you want to die on that hill, then by all means, have at it. But there are a lot of different angles you have to look at first, I think, before you get into that.
What does a spirit of a Ted Bundy appear, act like? And here's a guy who was so hubris and arrogant that, what was happening to him was nothing more than a joke, all the way through even the trial. And, upon him crossing over, does he still have that same hubris, that same mentality? And if he's going to torment people, it's going to very much feel like a demonic oppression. No question about it. Not knowing even the levels of what those powers are on the side. We are skirting those facts, luckily, with Ken's team and the two young, amazing prodigies that anything's possible. Anything's possible. Ken, we got a couple more questions we want to hit, right?
Yeah, here's one from Michelle. We'll take it in her absence. Do you believe that beings, whether they be demon or ghost, etc., have the ability to know things about us that wouldn't normally be humanly possible?
It's the perfect Ken question.
I give that a bit. And I think everybody's heard that story ad nauseum, with Cody and Story being able to contact someone I was thinking of, on multiple occasions, which certainly raised my eyebrows. So yes, I think that there was also talk last week of, perhaps them coming to someone who was in need of a message. And I'm not sure who was responsible for asking that. Maybe it was Aaron. I'm not sure. Yeah, but I thought that was very cogent and a great point. But it's happened to me before, so absolutely. I think so.
Yep. Next one.
We have another question here. I checked on this. This is actually from our friend Mikey Thompson. Hi, Mikey.
Hi, Mikey.
Great show, y'all. Aaron, congratulations on all of your new ventures. So excited for you. Okay, I do have a question for Michelle. Okay, I have watched you for many years and fascinated by your abilities.
Thank you.
What has been your biggest mentor or influence throughout your journey? Hi, George and Ken. We'll take the last part first. Hi, Mikey. Unfortunately, we can't. I don't think we could answer that question, but it's not a.
We've all had either a mentor or somebody we looked up to, somebody that guided us on our path, whether they were cognizant of it or not. Aaron, you were the first one mentioned in that question. So is there one for you at this point in time?
Does it have to be one?
No, of course not.
So I would say initially it was my friend Catherine, who was the first person I worked with from a spiritual perspective. And then I would say Andrea, because I very much think when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And then I fell in with you, two fascinating gentlemen. So I would consider you. So says you. But, I think it's I definitely would consider that. I mean, and Ken, especially from the investigative point of things. I mean, I think I've been very lucky to fall in, and Ken and I have discussed this at length. I think when you're new in this field or you're new in anything, falling into the correct hands, into the hands of people who care about you and they care about your well-being and they care about, you know, your path, whatever it looks like. Those I think are where you really find your mentors, the people that just kind of take you under their wing and let you grow and let you learn and are there when you need them. So those would be my biggest, and Michelle Roos as well. I mean, Michelle really, I've learned a lot from her. So those would be my top 5.
Oh, how about you, Ken?
Never really had one.
Yeah.
It was a different time. You know, I never had, as a young kid at a time where this stuff was, you know, still a little crazy, still a little weird. We weren't into what we're into now. I never had anybody, you know, put their arm around me and say, okay, here's how you're going to do this, kid. Here's how you go about this, kid. So I took knowledge where I could find it and some insight where I could find it. But, you know, I never had anybody steering me in, you know, any kind of direction. Beyond my parents, my biggest mentors, and maybe my first Little League coach. That's about it.
Mine's pretty easy. Mine would have to be Zach Bagans, and you know, same situation as Ken. Although I definitely look to Ken for keeping me grounded. I look to Ken for guidance, and certainly to pick his brain. But I'm one of those people. I have that horrible gene that I tend to be an armchair quarterback in many different aspects, including when I see things happening at a store, fast food restaurant, place I go to, and I'm like, I know I can do better than these people can. I know that I can manage this place better. And it's easy to do that from afar. I'll do that all the time. Same thing comes in the field where I see things mostly on social media, but also things that people post on their channels. And I'm like, they shouldn't be doing it this way. This is how they should be doing it. They're going to get better results if they try this. There's even been times where I've commented in their chat and saying, why don't you try this and do this instead? Give different aspects to it. So it is my burden to bear that I'm hypercritical constantly, but it also falls upon myself where I will be hypercritical about what I present for evidence or what I'm experiencing. I want to know more. That's why I harass Cody and Satori, because I want to know more. And thank God that Ken plays blocker against me in defense to keep an eye out for them. So that's my answer there too. All right.
I could throw Rick McCollum in too. Sorry. Rick McCollum too. For me. He's been a great source of advice and defending and talking.
Why are demons and the devil written about in the Bible?
Loaded question.
That sounds like a then why is type of thing. I don't know. Maybe that's directed to me because I was the only one who. I don't know.
You brought it up.
Yeah. Oh no, it was a question in chat. I was just simply responding. Deb, I think that it goes back to what I said earlier. This is my own opinion now. Send all your hate email to George. This is just my opinion. But I think again we try to explain some of the horrible things that go on in this world since for millennia, and oftentimes it's easier to assign those horrible things or responsibility for those horrible things to something ethereal. I mean, we see it in the paranormal field where people say, all of this stuff happened when we moved into this house. So the house gets blamed. You know, my husband lost his job, I got sick, and, you know, all sorts of things that happen in life, but nothing happened until we moved into this house. Ergo, the if then else sort of system to that. So it's got to be the house, or, you know, but I mean, that's the closest I can come to an explanation from the perspective that I'm taking. So well, I'm a recovering Catholic. I'm working.
Me too.
I mean, think about the. I mean, these, and again, I'm a man of faith, not a man of religion, and I've always said that. I find that when you take in the context of the devil and demons, what better way to rid yourself of guilt? What better way to rid yourself of blame when you could push it all on that influence? And it's also a great scare tactic to, hey, in our society, you better be in line. Because if you're not, if you break these laws, if you break these commandments, you're putting yourself in a very, very dire situation with your soul. That's terrifying, especially 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. That's terrifying.
Right.
You can't be distracted by TikTok. It's right there in your face, and that's all you guys, as you're crossing the desert, are talking about. And it's, to this day, it's still an extremely effective tool. It allows people to behave, or compels them to behave. It also compels others to be murderous and suicidal. It's terrifying. You have to contend with that. We lost Aaron. Something going on in the Ethernet today, or it could be the direction of what we're talking about, because that's happened also. So if anybody's at home and your lights are flashing back and forth, and then you know why. Sorry, Ken, I clicked on you too.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got Michelle's disease, I gather.
Yeah. There was one more question in chat, and it had to do with European mythology, if a book could be recommended. So there you go. HRL and Gods and Myths of Northern Europe.
Nice.
I strongly suggest. Okay, so it's a good starting point.
There's one more question at the bottom there, Ken, for you.
I have no idea. I can't see them right now.
Oh, Ken, when will the tickets be available for September 8th?
As soon as I have a call in to Jacqueline Nunez. So as soon as I am able to contact her, because they have to create a link on their website and put the description of what we're doing on there. When that happens, then I will be posting them up as I usually do around 8 o'clock to give everyone who's working during the day a fair chance to purchase them. So
yeah, and your plane tickets and your hotel rooms and all that stuff. So
yeah, next week.
So again, I want to apologize for you guys who have missed the first hour. You can go back and take a look with our guest Michelle Belanger, but there were some connectivity issues, and we were hoping to get her back. My guess is she was just fed up with it as well. But we hope to have her back sometime in the future when things are better, and continue this conversation, because I was enjoying the hell out of it, and I know you guys were too. But at this point in time, we're all out of time. I want to thank again Michelle, and of course Ken and Aaron for being here with us. We will be back again next week. Have a very safe and enjoyable 4th of July. I hope the weather is good for you guys. Please enjoy yourself. We'll see you again next week. Until then, take care. Thank you, and good night.